All right, what is up, everybody? Jimmy V here. Hope everybody had a terrific Labor Day. And yeah, wanted to pop on here and make sure that I am staying, how should I say, true to form here, delivering on my promises to you. And that is answering all of your VA loan questions on Sundays. In this case, kind of like a Sunday, right? Monday night here. And yeah, just wanted to pop on, make sure that all of your VA loan questions are answered. So what you guys got for me? I spent the weekend, let's see here, in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Got to travel out to my son's tennis tournament, had a great time. Welcome if you're just joining. I'm answering VA loan questions live this evening from a mortgage loan originator who happens to specialize in VA loans. So welcome to the chat. If you are joining, go ahead and sound off in the comment section. What branch of service did you serve in? And secondly, what are your VA loan questions? This is really your time. I don't have a set agenda. I don't even know if anybody's going to show up. Good to go. But if they do and they have VA loan questions, they came to the right place. Roger that. So like I said, spent some time in Albuquerque, New Mexico over the weekend. Got to travel to my son's tennis tournament. That was a blast. Had a great time. Happy to be home and happy to get back after it and answer once again your VA loan questions. So I did want to report back to you on a specific economic report that came out last week. It's called the PCE report. Now, why is this important? Why do you, as veterans and active duty military, need to know this information? It's pretty simple. It's the Fed, the Federal Reserve's favorite measure of inflation. All right. Now, generally speaking, if inflation is going lower, so too do mortgage interest rates. You ask yourself, well, why is that? Right? Think about it. If a lender loans you out money at, let's just say, $400,000 at an interest rate of 5%, and inflation is above that, right? And then all of a sudden, the mortgage lender has a problem on their hands, do they not? Right? So what do they need to do? They need to increase their interest rates to stay in line with inflation. This is why inflation happens to be the arch nemesis of mortgage interest rates. They don't like each other. So my point in sharing that is this PCE report, the personal consumption expenditure, is kind of like a giant receipt of how Americans happen to be spending their money, all right, and what they're spending it on and what they're paying for it, most importantly. And if that report comes in lower, which it came in line with expectations, the good news behind that is that inflation hasn't gone up. Roger that. So if inflation hasn't gone up, this is further evidence that I think kind of suggests that the Fed will once again decrease the federal funds rate at this upcoming meeting in September. You've also heard, a lot of noise about President Trump firing one of the Fed governors, and typically he's going to most likely make his own appointment. Now, why is that important? Well, if President Trump appoints somebody who is in line with his views, I think this further makes the case that we could see mortgage interest rates continue to go lower in the weeks, months, and quarters to come. Good to go. And if you're just joining, I'm Jimmy Vercellino. I'm a mortgage loan originator. I specialize in VA loans, and I'm answering your VA loan questions live today. So my point in sharing all of that is that I am optimistic about where interest rates are going, where they're heading. I think that 2026 is going to show mortgage interest rates decrease by a substantial amount. This paves the way for veterans to be able to afford more home, and B, right, have lower monthly payments, pay less in interest. That, of course, is never a bad thing. Good to go. So if and when that time comes, like I said, I'm super optimistic that it will. I think we're going to see a lot more veteran home buyers come back into the marketplace. And you guys maybe have heard me say this before, but I believe that when more veterans come back into the marketplace, that more sellers are going to have kind of more options, right? So the deals that are there today maybe won't be there in the winter. Maybe they won't be there in Q1 or Q2. So my point in sharing all of that is if you are in a position where you have a piece about the monthly payment, B, you have a piece about the cash to close, it may not be a bad idea to consider getting out in front of this. Good to go. So if you're just tuning in, my name is Jimmy Vercellino. I'm a mortgage loan originator. I specialize in VA loans. Go ahead and sound off in the comment section, right? What branch of the service were you in? And also, right, what are your VA loan questions? This is your opportunity to get all of your VA loan questions answered from a mortgage loan originator who's closed over 2,000 VA loans. I've been originating VA loans pretty much exclusively now for 20 years. Left the Marine Corps in 05, got started in the mortgage industry. Not a whole lot of similarities other than they both start with the letter M. Roger that. So had a difficult time transitioning from the military to mortgage, obviously, but I did speak the language of you, right? The veteran or active duty service member. So I devoted my mortgage practice, and today I serve veterans all across this great nation with all of their VA home loan financing needs. Good to go. So, I do want to talk a little bit about kind of some of the things that will be needed in order to purchase a home. What can you expect as far as the documentation goes? So that way, when the time comes, right, you can be ready to roll, right? You can consult with a mortgage lender, somebody like myself, and you can already have all of the documentation and be prepared ahead of kind of schedule here, right? Provide them with all of the documentation. You say, well, man, where did you hear all of this? How did you know how to get it? Well, I watched Jimmy Vercellino's videos. Good to go. So some of those things will consist of W-2s, tax returns, bank statements, pay stubs. Generally speaking, we in the mortgage industry refer to this as the rule of twos, all right? 2 years of W-2s, 2 years of tax returns, most recent 2 months of bank statements, all pages, even if the page is blank. I also recommend that we get a copy of your DD-214. We on box 24 of your DD-214 are going to be ensuring that you've been honorably discharged. Now, some mortgage loan officers won't tell you to have this. I think it's always best practice to have it. So that way, right, it's just one less thing that may come up throughout the transaction that they could ask you for that, maybe you don't have on file. Just be prepared, be ahead of schedule, right? A couple of other things that I think is important for you to know is on the bank statements, when you guys are providing all of this to the mortgage lender, right? The bank statements need to have that one specific page that says this page is intentionally left blank. It's like, yeah, we need to have that page too. I know it's absurd, but it's a requirement. Why? Because in 2005 and 2006, when mortgage fraud was rampant, right? It was an issue, right? People were falsifying stuff. Now, today, it's always needed. Every single page. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. If you're just joining, I'm answering all of your VA loan questions live today. So if you have questions, drop it in the comment section. This is your opportunity to get a mortgage loan originator who's been originating VA loans for a very long time. I think I mentioned earlier, 20 years. And I want to make sure that you're hearing it from, I don't know, the horse's mouth, I guess, right? Because I've learned over the years that there's a lot of people that will say things about VA loans that simply stated isn't true. They'll tell you things like VA loans take longer to close. I just uploaded a new video kind of talking about why do people say VA loans take so long to close? Or, that VA is more difficult to get done. The sellers don't like VA loans. Man, get that stuff out of here. That's just bum scoop, Even Dave Ramsey, and I've talked about this in some of my other videos, will say things about VA loans. I'm like, Dave, I love you, right? I think you do a ton of great stuff for Americans across the country, but I disagree with your take on VA loans. Like he said, the VA loans were the most expensive out of any of the big three, FHA, VA, conventional. I'm like, dude, that is just not true. VA loans have lower interest rates. They have no private mortgage insurance, right? They don't require a down payment. You can put money down if you choose to do so, but it's not mandatory. And so, by the way, if you're just joining, I'm answering VA loan questions live. If you guys have a question, throw it in the comment section. I don't really have a set agenda. It's just us hanging out here. And if you did serve, go ahead and drop in your branch of service so I can salute you and make sure that I thank you for your service to our great country. I served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines. Towards the end of my enlistment, I rogered up with 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. I'm a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom as well. And that's something that I hold very near and dear to my heart. So happy September. I hope you guys had an amazing Labor Day. I've talked a little bit about some of the items that you would need. Another is a certificate of eligibility. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Go ahead and comment in the chat chat section if you can hear me okay. Just give me a thumbs up or something. That way I make sure that I'm not talking to a wall. Good to go. But the COE, the Certificate of Eligibility, this form confuses a lot of veterans. You say, well, why is that? It's because when you look at this form, right, basically it tells us as the mortgage lender that you are eligible. That's it, that you're just eligible for a VA loan. That's really it, right? And so some people think that it's an automatic approval. No, it's not. Just saying that you're eligible to get a VA loan. Remember, veterans, that you can be eligible and not, you can be eligible and not be pre-qualified. You following me along on that? And you can be pre-qualified but not eligible. So we have to ensure that you are both. You tracking with me on that? So the certificate of eligibility. On the form, there's two ways to get it, right? You can get a copy from va.gov, or you can get a copy from me. And I guess this is a good opportunity for me to say, if you'd like to work with me, right, you can certainly check out my website, fill out an inquiry. We can talk on the phone, learn a little bit more about what you're looking to accomplish, and possibly we can work together. But on this certificate of eligibility, it says, it's kind of confusing, right? It says this veteran's basic entitlement is $36,000. So veterans get this form and they go, dude, $36,000? Like, I can't qualify for anything in my neighborhood for $36,000. And I just want to push pause on that for a second, because here's what that means. It doesn't mean that your maximum loan amount is only $36,000, right? What it means is entitlement is a fancy way of saying guarantee. That's all it is guarantee. It's guarantee from the VA to the lender. And here's my point. When I say VA loan, veterans, it's not truly a VA loan. I'm using the terminology wrong, and so does 99.9% of the rest of the nation. I'm going to get a quick drink here. So I'm actually using the term wrong. What it is once again a VA guaranteed loan. All the VA does, hear me out on this, all the VA does is guarantee the loan by 25%. That's it. So if you were getting a loan for $100,000 from a mortgage lender, the VA steps in and says, hey, Mr. Lender. They say yes, right? You know that loan that you just made, Joe Schmuckatelli? If you're a Marine, you would get that, right? Shout out to all my Marines on the broadcast here. But if you gave Joe a $100,000 loan, all the VA does is guarantee the loan by 25%. That's it. Remember, it's still the lender lending you, the veteran, the money. So you have to get pre-qualified / pre-approved with the lender in order to qualify. It's that simple. And the VA hangs out in the background and basically provides a silent guarantee on the loan in the event of default. That's it. You tracking with me on that? So if you have questions, make sure that you throw it in the chat box, guys. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to answer your questions. Anything VA loan related, I'm here to be a resource. So, you ask yourself the question, right? If VA doesn't lend the money, well, how long does it take to get a VA loan? And the answer is it depends. It depends on several different factors. It depends on the lender that you're working with. It depends on the seller and when they want to get out of the home, right? It depends on your needs too, obviously, right? But the textbook definition to how quickly a VA loan can be done, what is the absolute soonest? This might shock you. If you're watching, go ahead and type it in the chat box. How long do you guys think it takes to close on a VA loan? Go ahead and type it in the chat box. I'll wait. All right, how many of you guys, no matter what question I ask today, are not going to answer? It's okay, right? But I'll tell you, all right, the true textbook definition is 7 days, all right? It's 7 days, that's it, right? You can close technically on a VA loan in as little as 7 days. Now, in order for that to happen, a lot of things have to come together quickly and efficiently. Echo 4 Fox says it took me about 1 month. So you're spot on, Echo 4. What I tell my clients is, budget for about 30 days. All right, budget for about 30 days. Can it be done sooner? Yeah, it can, right? Can it be done, or can it take longer? Yes, it can. What What state did you buy an Echo for? So the reason why I'm asking that is because it can also take a specific amount of time depending upon where you live in the VA appraiser rotation and how quickly they can get out. Nebraska, okay, that's good to go. So depending if you're on a rural area, sometimes appraisers may take a little bit longer, right? So that's the type of things that you want to budget for. So here's the point that I'm trying to make. Lender A might take 30 days, lender B might take 45, and lender C might take 60. It just depends on the lender that you're working with. So before you get ready to go out there and purchase a home, it's important that your time frame, your budget, your timeline is in alignment with the lender, right? And some lenders take longer than others, which is why you want to make sure that you're getting into your home according to your time frame and not anybody else's, right? Make sure you check that box. So if you're just tuning in, I'm answering VA loan questions live. My name is Jimmy Vercellino. I'm a mortgage loan originator. I specialize in VA loans. I serve veterans all across the country. I've personally closed over 2,000 VA loans. So welcome to the chat. If you have a specific question about a VA loan, something that you've maybe heard, somebody was maybe giving VA loans a hard time and you're like, I don't know if that's true or not, throw it in the chat box. What have you guys heard about VA loans? My personal feeling is that the VA loan is by far and away the most competitive program that exists on the marketplace today. Why is that? No private mortgage insurance, right? No down payment required. This eliminates a barrier to home entry for many veterans and active duty military. So this is obviously, a tremendous opportunity. How about this? How about the fact that you can use more than one VA loan at a time? A lot of people don't know this. Did you guys know this? Type it in the chat box if you knew this. You can have multiple VA loans at the same time to build and create wealth through the acquisition of multiple homes with your VA. Now you might say, well, Jimmy, wait a second. How do you do that? Because you've got to live in the property as your primary residence, don't you? The answer is yes, you do. But here's the cool part, right? You can live in the first home. It's got to be a minimum of 1 year. Good to go? Minimum of 1 year you have to live in that home. Then you can go out and purchase a new home, more desirable location, bigger square footage, house with the pool, whatever the case may be, for no money down, assuming you have enough VA loan entitlement left over. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that you bought a home in 2020 for $300,000. Okay, the conforming loan limit for most counties across the nation is $806,500. That means if you're watching this video, you can buy a home all the way up to $806,500 with no money down. Can I go off on a tangent here for just a second? In fact, if you don't have a VA loan, like if you don't even have an existing VA loan, you can go as high as you want. You've got to qualify by way of income and credit, of course, but you can go as high as you want with no money down. A lot of people don't know that. So in 2020, the Trump administration signed into law something called the Vietnam Veteran Blue Water Initiative Act. Inside of this bill, lifted the cap on VA loans. So there is truly no cap on VA loans. This is a big deal. So back to my original point, if you have an existing VA loan, once again, you can have multiple VA loans at the same time. Did you guys know that? If you knew that, type it in the chat box. If you didn't, type it in the chat box. Either way, I'm curious to hear from you because I think that this is kind of one of the most kind of biggest kept secrets, I guess I would say, about VA loans that I think deters a lot of veterans from like, oh, I can't buy another home because I have to put down 20%. It's like, no, you don't. You really don't. So back to my example, if you bought a home for $300,000, and let's just say 2020, and since then, right, maybe you've leveled up in your career, maybe you've got, a kid or two, right? Things change in 5 years, right? I know they have for me. You can actually go out and buy a new home, more desirable location, bigger square footage, house with the pool, better school district, whatever it is, right? It's your house. You can convert the first home into a rental property, right? Put a renter in that home and then go out and buy that new home, more desirable location, bigger square footage, house with the pool, whatever the case may be, for up to, in this case, $506,500. Did you guys know that? I'm going to get a quick sip. So this is the kind of stuff that I talk about. What's up, JB? My pleasure, brother. I appreciate the love on that. Thank you for that. So JB, appreciate you jumping in. And Adriel, welcome to the chat, my brother. Adriel says, I knew you could use the VA loan more than once, but not aware that you could use it at the same time. Look at that, my man. We are learning together. So I'm happy to hear that you pick something up from this. And that's my job, right? Just to deliver you guys valuable information that you can use as you see fit. But here's the thing, Adriel, that I notice happens a lot in my industry. You know, you get referred to a mortgage loan originator who, is your real estate agent's, guy or gal, right? You pick up the phone, you call them, and they tell you something about the VA home loan benefit that is oftentimes not true. And why does that happen? Well, it's kind of like, I don't know, I'll try and think of a good example here. It's kind of like the medical field. In the medical field, there's different specialties, a podiatrist, doctor of the foot, or an orthopedic surgeon, maybe somebody who specializes in the shoulder. I don't know. But just because somebody is a medical professional, right, you've got ankle pain, doesn't mean that you should go to the orthopedic surgeon who specializes in shoulders. No, you should be going to the foot doctor, right? So my point is that just because somebody is a mortgage loan originator, right, does not mean that they should be working on your VA loan if, they haven't been properly trained on it. And that's something that I've seen so many times throughout the course of my career is people just don't know or understand VA loans. TL, I see your question. I'll answer it in just 1 second. But here's the thing. Just this week, I had a company working on a loan for who is now my client, right? They told them that they had to A, pay off debts, B, put down 10%. And we looked at their loan and we're like, who in the heck is telling you this? Because it's just not true. Guess what they were trying to do? Here's my suspicion. They were trying to put them into a conventional loan, you guys. So here's what I tell my veterans and active duty military. Second opinions on the largest financial transaction of one's life, especially if it's a VA loan, is never a bad idea and can end up saving you thousands. In this particular example, I kid you not, they're coming in with roughly $60,000 less by working with me just because they got a second opinion. $60,000. That's a big deal, right? I take that very seriously. All right, so I digress. TL says, question, just signed a new lease for the apartment I'm in now, goes for a year, but I want to buy my own place next year. Love it. All right. What time frame should I start the process to buy a place? Am I making sense? You're making perfect sense, brother. So here's what I typically tell my clients, TL, is you want to start the process roughly 90 days from the time that you want to get into your home. And I actually just uploaded a video, maybe 2 videos ago, but since you asked the question, I'm going to answer this live, right? But it was on this very topic. And actually, I'm sorry. It was my most recent video. How long do VA loans take to close? And so in that video, I discussed basically it's 90 days, right? 90 days allows you for kind of that first week to get pre-qualified, get everything going, right? Submit the documentation to your mortgage lender, right? Get pre-qualified, know how much you want to get approved for, know what the monthly payments are, the estimated cash to close, like do your recon, right? And then the other 11 weeks between, the pre-qualification, that's the time where you go out and start shopping for a home. Sometimes that can take anywhere from 30 days or 60 days, depending upon, your time frame. But once you've done that, you leave about 30 days or so to get into your property. So TL, I hope that answers your question, brother. But I would say start the process roughly 90 days from the time that you want to be in your home. Now, here's one thing that is pretty cool about this that a lot of people don't know is that in many circumstances, especially in the market that we're in today, sellers are able, willing, and ready to pay for your closing costs, right? You can negotiate the costs associated with the acquisition of the home and get the seller to pay them. So TL, here's what I'm getting at, brother. If you decided that you wanted to do something sooner, did you know that you can even negotiate with the seller, get money back from them at closing to buy out your lease? Man, like People just don't know this stuff. Veterans don't know this stuff. And here's what I've learned, right? The VA doesn't advertise this stuff, you guys, right? VA doesn't really like, you don't see commercials on VA loans, right? So the VA doesn't advertise it, right? Mortgage lenders don't understand it. That means real estate agents don't know. Just because they're a real estate agent, do not necessarily trust that the intel that you're getting is accurate, because in my experience, more often than not, it's incorrect. So VA doesn't advertise it, military doesn't teach it, right? Mortgage lenders oftentimes don't know what they're doing. Real estate agents don't understand this stuff. So how in the world are we supposed to expect you, the veteran or active duty military, to know this stuff? And it's like, we don't. Nobody ever taught us this. And when I was first getting into this industry, like I just had I guess that's why I'm so passionate about this stuff, because for so many years I've had to overcome objections on VA loans, right? And that is something that I've gotten really good at, because there's just so many of them, and most of them are baseless. Just because somebody had a bad experience, what I've learned is mortgage lenders will make things up and say, well, the VA says that. It's like, no, dude, you didn't originate the loan properly to begin with. It's not the VA. It was your oversight, right, of the military guidelines, of the VA loan guidelines, right? Toby, what's up? I recognize you in that name. Have you ever heard of Veterans United? A buddy of mine just bought a home using the app and suggested. Any opinion on it? So Veterans United is probably the biggest VA lender in the country. So of course I have an opinion on it. They're my competition, right? But one of the things that I've learned over the course of my career is you never speak ill of competition, right? So I would say they do a lot of great things in the marketplace. Veterans United, based out of Missouri, they probably originate more VA loans than just about any other company in the nation. One of the things that I think they have spot on, if I'm being 100% honest, is their marketing. Their marketing is hot, right? It's good. They do a terrific job, and they're everywhere, right? One of the things that I think veterans oftentimes, at least the feedback that I've received, is that it can be challenging when you're working with somebody in a call center type environment, kind of corporate feel. They're not individuals, right? As far as when I say individuals, they're kind of underneath that umbrella. I guess here's the point that I'm trying to make. When you're working with a mortgage loan originator, you're kind of like digging a fighting hole with that person for the next 30 days, right? Like you're getting in that fighting hole, and you want to make sure that that person has your six. It's like, can you pick up the phone on a weekend and text them if you have questions? Can you call them in the evening and get them on the horn? If you're dialing an 888 number, that may not be true. Now, does that mean that they don't do a good job? No, it just means you have to figure out what's best for you and kind of figure out what you feel most comfortable with. Some veterans don't mind it. Other veterans are like, no, dude, I want to be able to pick up the phone, get my loan officer on the cell phone, text to them, right? Making sure that they're in alignment, on the same page with my real estate agent throughout the entirety of the process, right? So it just depends ultimately on what's most important to you. I would just say that, it's more of a personal preference. Toby, does that answer your question? So I appreciate the questions coming in, you guys. I was doing all of the talking here for a long time, just kind of going on and on. I didn't see any questions come in the chat here. So if you guys do have questions, by all means, make sure you ask them. Toby says, thank you for your honesty. Much appreciated. Yeah, man, my pleasure. And I guess this is a good opportunity for me to say, if I can personally be a resource for you guys, I'm not hard to find, right? My website is VA Loans. I guess I'll type it in the chat box here, VALoansforvets.com. And if you want to schedule a time to speak with me for your individual scenario, I'd be happy to be a resource for you. That's what I'm here for, right? I help veterans all across the country with all of their VA home loan financing needs. TL asks, one thing that concerns me is HOA, single guy, right? So in other words, TL, eligible bachelor, right? So either a condo or a townhouse might be my route, but I've heard HOA horror stories, and paying on top of that mortgage might sting. Thoughts? So yeah, I think it's something that you should consider for sure, TL, right? What is the HOA going into the property? What do they cover, right? Is insurance also kind of underneath that umbrella for the common areas and things of that nature? Is the HOA healthy? These are questions that you're going to ask, right, your real estate professional before you get into a home. And as a part of your due diligence while you're under contract, these are questions that need to be answered. So just because it's an HOA doesn't mean that it's bad either. Okay. But some HOAs, they're a mess, but some are run really well. So I would just say, when you're checking out properties, it's like, take a look around. Is this community, well kept? Is it up to date? Is it clean? Right? Is the pool blue? Right? Like things like that, right? How well upkept is the property? And you can kind of get a good, kind of finger on the pulse of whether or not they're doing a good job. And also, is the HOA like reasonable? You don't want to pay $500, $600 because I have seen some that high, even higher, thousands of dollars a month. So is it reasonable, for the community and what you're getting? But yes, you will have to budget for that when you're purchasing a home, because we as the lender, TL, right, we're taking into consideration when we're qualifying you, principal and interest, taxes, homeowners insurance, and the HOA. So we're counting that in your debt to income ratio, and we want to make sure that you qualify. JB asks, let me just get a quick sip here, guys. JB says, curious, can I use a different mortgage lender than your realtor suggests? Absolutely. It's your choice. It's your choice. Let me get that out of the screen there. That's bothering me. All right. Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to work with the agent's lender that they suggest. Now, this could be coming from a good place, so let's give them the benefit of the doubt. One of the things that I tell my kids, right? Assume positive intent, right? So, yeah, but that doesn't mean that you have to. And I have many clients work with me after being referred to their agent. They're like, yeah, man, just didn't have a good vibe check. I called them. They didn't really seem too certain or sure about the VA loan process. And that led me to you, Jimmy. So I guess what I'm trying to say, JB, is that A, no, you don't. B, you could always get a second opinion. And C, your real estate agent doesn't have any say-so on who you use for your mortgage financing. Tracking with me on that? So JB, let me know if I answered your question. By the way, if you're on the live chat, I'm answering VA loan questions, right? No strings attached, pure value, just giving VA loan information from a mortgage loan originator who's closed over 2,000 throughout the course of my career. What branch of the service were you guys in? Go ahead and sound off in the chat box. I want to hear from you. Any Marines in the house? For some reason or another, man, my Marines don't ever jump on my live chat. So Marines, where are you at? Sound off. TL says, interesting. I'm in Northern Virginia and I've just been looking and getting a idea. So I've seen HOA costs from 600 to 900 and even some more. Yeah. So definitely take that into consideration, TL. So yeah, we're definitely going to want to budget for that, right? Because that can impact, or affect, as I think I was combining those words, your purchasing power, right? Because if it's $600 or $700, like that's a lot of money, dude. So we need to be ready for that. Echo 4 Fox, Marines, hey, Semper Fi, brother. All right, I could kind of tell when I saw the Echo 4, I had a suspicion. I was Echo 4 Victor. Good to go. So I was an E4 in the Marine Corps, 0311 Infantry. TL, thank you for your service to our great country, my man. TL says United States Army. So I'm just kind of here hanging out with you guys, answering VA loan questions. I've talked a little bit about, at the beginning of the chat, the PCE report came out. It's basically like a giant receipt of how we as Americans spend our money. It was in line with expectations. So I think that mortgage rates are going to continue to come down in the weeks and months ahead. We're starting to see some refinance activity. And for those of you that don't know, JB says, thanks, Army from Southern Cali. Enjoy your week. Hey, you too, brother. I appreciate you. Proud to have served. Thank you all for serving. Amen to that, brother. So, yeah, there's a couple things that you can do. We're starting to see more of these VA cash out refinances. So oftentimes veterans, maybe they bought a house 5 years ago. They've accumulated some equity. And since then, they want to be able to maybe pay off some debts, some credit card debts. You can use, right, the equity that you've built into your home or built up in your home, right, to pull that out at closing and pay off those debts if you choose to do so. but you have to do an ROI analysis, right? Return on investment, to determine whether or not it's worth it. But these are things that can be done. You can use a VA cash out refi to I said pay off debts, but I'm talking about, you know, remodel the house, right? You want to do custom floors or cabinetry, redo the kitchen. You can do that, right? These are cool things that can be done with a VA loan. Adriel says, I was recently approved for a 50% VA disability rating. My credit's considered great. What are some of the benefits that we are eligible for if we have great credit or 50% VA? USMC, Semper Fi, brother. So yeah, great question. So the first thing that I would say, Adriel, is that you're always going to be able to use your VA disability income to qualify, right? So that's a big deal, right? Tax-free income that you can use for the rest of your life. We as mortgage originators and lenders / banks love using this income because it's reliable, it's consistent, it never expires. All we do is get a copy of your VA service-connected disability award letter, slap it in the file, and we're using that to qualify you for a house. What are the other benefits, right? The other benefits are the fact that you don't pay a VA funding fee. This is a big deal and will literally save you tens of thousands of dollars in unnecessary fees and expenses over the life of the loan. All right, this is a big deal. So every VA loan has a funding fee. So the VA funding fee is a cost imposed on the mortgage to cover the risk associated with it. So for a first-time user, it's 2.15% of the loan amount. Subsequent user, meaning somebody that's used their VA loan for the 3rd, 4th, 10th time, doesn't matter how many times, you pay a 3.3% VA funding fee. So it becomes more expensive to use a VA loan. So Adriel, you are never going to pay your VA funding fee ever again. That's good to go, right? So if a veteran has a service-connected disability rating of as little as 10%, their VA funding fee is waived for life. Okay? That's going to save you a lot of money. All right? So that's a really big deal. Now, Adriel, if that ever gets bumped up to 100%, right, in some circumstances or some counties across the nation, 100% service-connected veterans are actually able to get, in some cases, it's not every single county, but 100% service-connected veterans can get their property taxes waived as well. For example, in the state of Texas, there are counties that will waive a veteran's property taxes dependent upon their VA disability rating, or even in some other counties or states across the nation, you can get your property taxes waived with less than that. So, or a portion of your property taxes waived. Let me clarify myself. So it just depends on where you're purchasing. By the way, guys, if you feel like I've earned it so far, would you consider showing your love, clicking like on the video, so that way we can help promote it to other veterans? They can come in, watch this live stream. Like I said, if you feel like, there we go, I've earned it, that would mean a lot. So yeah, Adriel, does that answer your question there on the VA disability? Do you guys have any other questions for me over anything at all, anything VA loan related? Okay. I appreciate the likes, guys. That means a lot. So one of the other things that I'm seeing a lot of right now is VA construction to perm. A lot of veterans are asking questions about this right now, and it is a hot topic. So did you know you could actually build a house with a VA loan, right? A lot of people don't know that, and this is one of the other neat things about VA that people just don't talk about. It's called the VA construction to perm loan. So you can literally use your VA loan to build a house. Veterans just don't know this information, right? The thing that's unique about it is that the VA doesn't require, or requires that you don't pay interest during excuse me, during the building phase. So once the home is completed, the loan then converts into a permanent VA loan afterward, right? So if you've ever wanted to I see a lot of veterans, they want to build a house on rural land. You could actually package the land and the build together. In other words, bundle it, right? And be able to build your own home. Now, there are some things that have to come together as far as, to make that happen. But you've got to have a copy of the bid, right, from the builder. You've got to select a builder, obviously, the plans, the specs, all of these types of things. So there is some additional work required, but if you've got the chops to do it, This is something that's unique, and this happens to be one of, I happen to be one of the only lenders across the nation that actually does this type of financing. So happy to answer more questions for you on that. Adriel says, yes, thank you. If possible, I'd like to talk with you one-on-one in the state of New Mexico. So Adriel, I just left Albuquerque last night, brother. I was in ABQ for my son's tennis tournament. So yes, I'd be happy to connect with you. Go to my website, valoansforvets.com. And in the top right corner, Adriel, there's a schedule a consult link. You can reserve a time to speak with me that works best for you. I'd be happy to be a resource and help you put some rounds down range. Good to go? So there's about 6 of us here. I've been bumping my gums here for about 40 minutes on VA loans. What questions or what other questions do you guys have for me? Is there anything that you'd like to know about? Anything that you've heard about VA loans, credit score requirements, income requirements, documentation requirements? Guys, this is your time, right? I can't answer questions if I don't know what they are. I can obviously have an idea of a lot of the things that veterans ask me in my mortgage practice on a daily basis, but I want to make sure that I'm custom tailoring them. There we go. To you and your individual needs. Good to go. So how about credit scores? What are the credit scores needed for a VA loan? Now, the answer might surprise you guys, right? VA doesn't have a minimum credit score requirement. Did you guys know that? VA doesn't have a minimum credit score requirement. So like, for example, if you go on to the VA Lender's Handbook or go into the VA Lender's Handbook, you will not see one reference of a VA credit score requirement. All right. What the VA is looking for is that you've paid your bills in a timely manner, generally speaking, for the last 12 months. Right. So if the VA doesn't have a credit score requirement, why do veterans get told that there are credit score requirements? Here's the reason why. Because the lender is lending you, the veteran, the money. It's their money. They get to put the terms on the loan. So guys, here's the deal. Different lenders have different credit score requirements, right? One lender might require 640, one might require 620, and one might require 600, or one might even go lower than that, right? So here's what I tell my veterans, okay? And for what it's worth, I can go as low as 500. I have investors that we work with that will take a VA loan as low as 500. But let me just press pause on that for a second. Just because we can, does it mean that we should? Not necessarily, right? Now, there could be circumstances where a veteran has damaged credit. Maybe they were going through the VA disability rating process and they weren't able to make their payments because of the severity of the injuries that they received while serving. Okay, I get that, right? Yeah, we can make a case for that, right? However, if somebody just hasn't paid their credit cards on time or their, requirements or payments on time, it's like, hey man, are we helping you out here? Or are we putting you in a more kind of precarious situation here? So my point in sharing that is I generally recommend that my veterans have credit scores up to 620. Now, can I do a VA loan less than that? Yeah, I can. But why do I say 620? 2 things. Number one, it's going to help you to get more favorable financing terms. Okay. Lower interest rates, lower cost to borrow. Okay. And the second thing is that it's going to help increase the likelihood and probability that you get approved for your loan. Here's the part that a lot of lenders don't tell veterans. It's like, yeah, we can go down to 500, but it's like, well, wait a second. Can you actually approve me at 500? Well, you got to do all of these things. It's like, well, okay, timeout, right? So I suggest, right, 620, that's going to help you to get more competitive financing terms and boost the likelihood of approval, knowing that I can even go lower than that. But I want my veterans to be successful in home ownership. And I'm certainly not advocating that we put veterans into homes that can't afford it, right? Like that's not cool, right? We want to make sure that we're setting our clients up for success long-term in a home that they can build and create wealth in, make memories in, right? Raise a family in. Like that's what I want for my veterans. I love seeing veterans level up and succeed in the marketplace, right? I'm passionate about that stuff, right? Not just in housing, but like being entrepreneurs and reading and acquiring knowledge and information. Like, that's what I think is cool. Like veterans that are leveling up day by day, not just in their real estate portfolio, but in their acquisition of knowledge. I think about this often. Charlie Munger, who was Warren Buffett's right-hand man, said, try to go to bed a little wiser than you were the day before, right? And that's why we're on this live chat together here, is because we're pouring into each other and trying to help each other level up and grow and acquire knowledge, right? And that's what I think is important. So I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I've always appreciated success and success principles. And I don't think, I mean, maybe, do you guys agree? I don't feel like there's no, I shouldn't say there's no, but there's a limited amount of resources that we as veterans can go to, specifically catered to veterans to help us grow, right? As vets, to learn and acquire knowledge that we can deploy into the marketplace and grow as a result, right? Like, I remember hearing this, and nobody ever taught me stuff like this in the Marines, right? It's like, when I got out of the Marines and I got into this field, it's like your income is directly related to one thing, Jimmy. It's like, well, what's that? It's the amount of value that you provide the marketplace. If you and I as veterans want our income to go up, then maybe we should become more valuable to the marketplace. Well, how do you become more valuable? Well, I acquired knowledge from reading. I listened to podcasts, right? I got in better shape. I had a better attitude. I mean, these are all things that sound basic, but it's like, man, the military doesn't really teach us this kind of stuff. They teach us to say Roger that and yes, sir, which is valuable if you are, looking for an employee. But like, I think that we should be going to higher levels than we already are. So anyways, you guys can tell that, I'm passionate about this stuff, and, I'm trying to level up too, guys. I'm trying to acquire and learn new skill sets and traits, etc. That's motivating to me. I want to be better today than I was yesterday as well. So anyhow, do you guys have any other questions over anything at all? So TL says, agree completely. The military should have some kind of basic, dude, tell me about it, bro. How about high school, right? Like, how about we teach our kids what compound interest is and why they shouldn't use credit cards? It's like, yeah, okay. Makes sense to me. Yeah, I agree with you 1000%. So I got off a little bit on VA loans and I started talking about success principles. Dude, hey, listen, you're not alone, TL. I'm guilty as well, brother. I wasted my fair share of money as well, partying. But nevertheless, I started learning, and I learned what to do, and I also have learned what not to do. And now I'm teaching it to my children, right? So, anyways, I'm answering VA loan questions. I started talking about success principles there for a little bit, but I'm happy to answer any other VA loan related questions. By the way, I guess this is a good opportunity for me to say, if you guys want to learn more about VA loans, you're welcome to consider checking out my channel. It's dedicated to veterans and active duty military, and truly educating on VA home loan benefits, how they work, and answering the most common questions, so that way you guys can deploy your VA loan or multiple VA loans, right, throughout the course of your career, because the VA loan never expires, never goes away. You can use it as many times as you would like. You can even use more than one at a time. I talked about that earlier, right? TL asks, is there an age limit on your VA loan? Good question. The answer is no. We as lenders cannot discriminate on age, sex, origin, ethnicity. I mean, no, we can't. Veteran comes and wants to apply for a VA loan. We do not ever discriminate on age. Big time no-no. It's against the law. All right. So hope that answers your question. Toby says, I always hear about the lowest credit score requirements, and you mentioned 620, but are there any additional benefits of having a score 700 plus? Is there no difference from having 620 to 720? That's a really good question, Toby. And the answer is yes, there is a difference. So that kind of difference in credit score is going to be passed along to you in savings in the form of a rate. Okay. So the higher the credit score, the more competitive financing terms that you're going to receive. Good to go. So yeah, absolutely. Like shoot for the best credit score you possibly can, because that's going to show up when you borrow by having a lower interest rate, lower monthly payment, right? Which means that you're saving money in both payment and the amount of interest that you're paying to the lender. And every single veteran watching this channel, right, should always say, yeah, I want to pay less in interest, right? We all want that. So yeah, I agree. Great question. That was the next one. So I hope that answers that, Toby. So I guess what Toby, you bring up a bigger point here, and that is that, VA doesn't have a set rate. It's the market that determines the rate based off of the risk associated with the loan. You with me on that? So I'll give you a really silly example, but like if you've ever been to like a yogurt shop before, right? You go in, you pump the yogurt, then you put all the toppings on it, and then you weigh it and you pay for it. And based off of how much that cup of yogurt weighs with all of the condiments on top of it, right? That is the price. Well, it's the same thing getting a mortgage. You show up, you get the mortgage, right? The more toppings that mortgage has on it, credit scores, debt to income ratios, right? Loan type, the more, whether it's your primary residence, second home, investment, the lock period, the more toppings that you put on that mortgage, the more expensive it becomes, right? So the VA rate is not set by the VA. And if you've been watching for some time now, you may remember me saying this towards the earlier phase of this live stream, that, VA doesn't lend the money. It's the mortgage lender who lends the money, right? So different lenders can oftentimes have different rates on any given day. Some lenders pop in the market, some pop out, right? It just kind of depends. But by and large, VA interest rates tend to be anywhere from 3/8 to 3/4 of a percentage point lower than conventional loans. Good to go. So do not let somebody talk you out of using your VA loan for their benefit, right? And in my professional opinion, and yes, I do consider my opinion in this specific arena to be a professional one, is that it would be malpractice. They use that term in the medical field. It would be malpractice to put you in an FHA loan or a conventional over a VA if you qualify and are eligible for a VA loan. Why? Because you're going to pay more in interest on a conventional loan. Why? Because you're going to pay monthly private mortgage insurance on an FHA loan for the duration of the loan. Why in the hell would somebody do that? And I've seen veterans come to me to this channel who have been told, hey, dude, you should take out an FHA loan, not a VA. I'm like, like I said, in the medical field, there's a term for that. It's called malpractice. And doctors can get in big trouble for that. I think there should be some sort of malpractice for mortgage loan officers that advise veterans to take out conventional loans over VA. Not cool. All right. So TL says, you may have covered this already, but if you are about to use your VA loan for the first time, is the next year a good time to look at buying since that's my time frame? No, dude, you're good. So, here's what I tell my veterans, right? You can never time the market. You can make an informed decision, TL, right? Based off of what's best for you. You can gather knowledge and make a decision based off of what you think. But sometimes I have veterans that are like, oh, dude, I'm not buying a home right now, bro. The market's going to crash. And, this is, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not here to change your mind, right? But TL, let me ask you a question. If you have a 401k, which I'm sure you do, and you're investing in your retirement, right? Do you ask the question every month, is now a good time to invest in my 401k? If you're like me, which I bet you are, you probably don't. And why is that? The reason why that is because you're operating under the assumption that over a fixed period of time, 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, that your 401k or the market is going to appreciate over the next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades and on, right? Well, that's the way I look at buying a home. Veterans oftentimes get kind of wrapped around the axle like, dude, I don't know if now's a good time. It's like, dude, you need to buy a house. Why? Because you need to have a roof over your head. And real estate happens to be the only investment that you can live in. Now, listen, I love Bitcoin. I love stocks, bonds, mutual funds, but you can't live in them, right? So get into a home when it's right for you, not me, not anybody else. I'm not trying to have you jump in early if you're not ready. Get into a home when it's right for you and pull the trigger. That's it, right? And slowly begin building wealth over time, because if you look at the history of real estate, it's only done one thing. You want to take a guess what that is? Type it in the chat box. Okay? It's go up. It's go up. That's the only thing real estate has done historically speaking. And even if you were like me, TL, okay, and you bought a home at the absolute worst time since the Great Depression, they called this the Great Recession. Okay, I bought my first house in 2006, September. Okay, worst time that you could buy a house. Even if I held on to that house today, when real estate values crashed 50%, that home would have doubled in price from the time that I purchased it. So my conclusion is that if you're long on real estate, you win. Now, there might be some of this in between now and then. Turbulence, right? But if you can afford it, you're not overspending, right? You're not exceeding your means, right? You're setting yourself up for success. And either way, remember this, you're paying a mortgage. It might as well be your own. That's my philosophy, not your landlord's. Good to go? All right, what other questions do you guys have for me? So I'll probably go here I'll go here as long as you guys need me, all right? But if you're not answering any questions, I'm gonna get back to my evening here. But what other questions? VA loan related, anything you want. Guys, listen, no dumb questions. What did they used to tell us, right? The only dumb question is one not asked. Toby says, piggybacking off my last question on credit score, what would you suggest being a good high credit score to stay above for the best rates possible? Trying to set a goal for myself. Love it, brother. I'd say 700. 700, you're going to see a quality interest rate. And in addition to that, just overall kind of optimized approach to buying a house. What do I mean by that? I mean, streamlining the process for approval purposes. Shoot for that 700, maybe 720 if you really want to shine, brother. Okay. So I hope that answers your question. Any other questions? VA loan related. You guys see that right there? There it is. We don't promise you a rose garden. That's an old vintage Marine Corps recruiting poster. That's a DI right there looking in. My nephew just got done with MCRD San Diego. That was fun. I got to go out and see him stand out on the parade deck. That was outstanding. So TL says, thank you for your time. I've subscribed to your channel and will bookmark your website. Yeah, man, that's what I'm here for. Thanks for subscribing. You're welcome to check it out. And by the way, if you guys want to have more information on VA loans, I have a biased opinion, full disclosure, but in all seriousness, I believe that the information that I put out there related to VA loans is certainly valuable because there's not a lot of people out there that will teach this stuff. So consider subscribing to the channel if you want. Awesome. Thank you. I had my eye on 800, but good to know I don't have to wait that long. No, man, you're good to go on that front. Any other questions, VA loan related? I've got about 9 people here. You guys have been keeping me busy with the questions, and I appreciate that. That's what I'm here for. That's why I showed up, to answer your questions. I don't want to talk the whole time. I want to make sure that I'm custom fitting this to your individual needs. Good to go. And speaking of custom fitting to individual needs, like, guys, that same thing can be done with a mortgage. You following me along on that? Oh, it's pouring outside right now in Arizona. I don't know if you guys can pick that up on the mic or not, but in Arizona, in like August and early September, we have like monsoon season. I don't know if you guys saw it on the news the other day. There's this thing called a haboob, right? It comes in from the desert and it looks apocalyptic. Like there's a tidal wave of dust. Look it up on YouTube, dude. It's absolutely the gnarliest thing you'll ever see. But it's like a cloud storm of dust that just moves into the market, envelops I said market, into the city, and envelops everything. It's absolutely insane to see. But anyways, monsoon season, so that's what's going on out my window right now. But yeah, speaking of custom fitting, by the way, can you guys tell that I have ADD a little bit? I go off on tangents here and there, but you'll have to forgive me. But speaking of, one last time, custom fitting. Guys, you have to custom fit your mortgage to your individual needs. What does that mean? It means that when I'm discussing or having a preliminary mortgage consult with my clients and my veterans, I ask them, where do you want your monthly payment to be? You know why I ask that? Because I'm not the one making the mortgage payment. You are, right? So if you tell me, Jimmy, I want to be at $2,000 a month, right? Then I'll say, Roger that. Here's the price point of homes that we should be looking at, right? If you say, Jimmy, I don't want to come out of my pocket with any more than $5,000 at closing, then I say, Roger that. Then we want to make sure that your real estate agent knows that we need to negotiate seller concessions to help you accomplish that mission. So you don't want to work with just an order taker, right? You want to have somebody in the clothing industry, they have a term like bespoke fitting, right? You want it to be fit to you and your family's individual needs. And my problem with a lot of mortgage loan officers is that they'll just tell you how much you qualify for, but they won't take time to say, hey, does that work for you? Right? Like, that's not cool, right? We want to make sure that we're setting you one last time up for success. CJ says, this year I've bounced between 790 and 770. Basically, keep your cards zeroed out in your own assets. That's my advice, friends. Yeah, you're not going to get any disagreement here, sir. So yeah, good general rule of thumb is you don't want to carry more than a 30% balance on your cards. So, you know, math for Marines here, right? $1,000 limit, don't carry more than a $300 balance, right? You can pay off your card every month, right? But shows lenders that you're responsible in the utilization ratio. This is going to help you to kind of have nice, clean, healthy arteries to your healthy credit score, or healthy blood flow to your optimized credit score, is the way that I like to explain it to my client. By the way, guys, if you feel like I've earned it thus far and I've provided valuable information, would you consider showing your love, clicking like on the video, so that way we can help more veterans to hear how our VA home loan benefit works. My name is Jimmy Vercellino. I'm a mortgage loan originator. I specialize in VA loans, and that's what I'm doing today, answering your questions. So we just landed on an hour, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking, coming in for a on-time arrival, perhaps, in Phoenix, Arizona. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. I hope that you were able to get some questions answered. And most importantly, thank you for your service to our great country. If you want to reserve a time to speak with me, you're welcome to do so. I'm not hard to find. You can go to my website. I'll type in the chat box here really quick, www.valoansforvets.com. And yeah, I'm happy to be an individual resource for you. I help veterans all across the country with their VA home loan financing needs. Like I said, mortgage loan originator specializing in VA loans. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.